Hi, this is The Local Lens, and I'm Jenny Pastasak. Joining me today is Superintendent of Wicomico County Public Schools, Dr. Micah Stauffer. Welcome, Micah.
Hi, hello, good to be here. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. We have a lot to talk about, too.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because this is perfect timing. We are heading into the budget season.
Yes.
And there's an ask on behalf of our school system. Wicomico County Public Schools is pretty much standing up and saying, I think we need a little more attention here.
Yeah. The tagline for this initiative is called Do Better Wicomico.
Okay.
It's in partnership with the Greater Salisbury Committee, the 2030 Initiative, as well as the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce Education Network, and the Wicomico County Education Foundation, in partnership with Wicomico County Public Schools, and looking at really historically over the last 15 years local funding that Wicomico County is putting forward to our school system.
We're talking about local funding.
Yes.
This is coming from the county. We're not talking about the state.
Correct.
And there's a little bit of a problem there because we haven't been receiving funds even to meet inflation.
That's correct. So when we look at the last 15 years, starting in 2010, in 2010, our per pupil funding from the local government was $3,624. Okay, and in 2025, I think it would surprise a lot of people in our community to know that our local funding per pupil now is $3,583. So about $40 less than it was 15 years ago.
That doesn't make sense.
It's been a challenge.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge. And to know that, yes, state funding has increased, but it has increased for reasons that go towards our the needs within our school system, such as poverty, our multilingual learners, or those that are learning English as a second language, as well as special education students. But local funding we really rely on to do our basic foundational things in school.
Sure.
The things that we really want to make sure that we continue to improve upon, and what our community expects us to do each and every day in our school system. Things like class sizes. Our class sizes over the last 15 years have really increased dramatically, and we've not been able to keep up with that. Just general inflation. Think about how much things cost 15 years ago versus what they cost today.
Just think about going to the grocery store, folks.
That's right.
You know?
And the things that we have to provide, obviously, for our students. Also, extracurricular activities, making sure that we're able to provide the sports and the clubs and the after-school programs that we know our students need and that our community expects us to be able to provide, as well as fine arts, our music programs, opportunities for students to be able to excel not only in the classroom, but the things that they really enjoy out of the classroom. Those are the things that we're hearing from our parents and from our students that they would like to see us continue to be able to improve upon and continue to provide each and every year for our students. But really with our local funding not even keeping up with inflation, not even keeping up with the amount that we received 15 years ago, that has truly been a problem. And that's why we've combined with the Greater Salisbury Committee, the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Wicomico County Education Foundation to really get this information out there to the community because it's time to take action.
There's people on at the chamber and the Wicomico County Education Foundation who might not even be parents or have kids in our schools, but they see the need too.
They do.
It's not just parents out there screaming, we need more money for our kids.
That's right. And we hear from Bill Chambers, from the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce and others in our community. We hear that education is the #1 economic driver in any community across our nation, or certainly across our state. So we feel that it's important to be able to maintain the standards that we know we're expected to maintain from our community, and that's what we want to be able to do.
Well, and our kids are our future.
They
are. If we think about
Absolutely.
into the business world, economic development, the future of our businesses and our local community is in their hands.
That's right. And I can't think of any better investment to make than on our students and those that will be the future of our community.
Let's talk about the classroom size is definitely a topic that I've heard about a lot.
Yeah.
Put it in perspective for people. You know, a normal regular class size compared to kind of what we're seeing now and what teachers are trying to handle on a daily basis.
Sure. Keeping in mind that a standard class size, maybe historically you may think of as 30 students decades ago. But now when you're looking at the amount of poverty that we have in our community, the number of multilingual learners that we have, the special education needs that we are seeing in our school system, really you need to be much lower than 30, but a lot of our class sizes now are approaching 30 or at 30. I can think of examples from Prince Street Elementary or Beaver Run where we have kindergarten, first grade classrooms where there are 28, 29, 30 students. So imagine, 6, 7-year-olds with that many students in a class that have special education needs in some cases. Maybe there are several languages that are being, spoken natively in that classroom. And you can start to get the idea of what some of our teachers are facing and the fact that we need to be able to have additional local funding to hire additional staff and bring those class sizes down to what would be more manageable and what would produce the kinds of results that we would need. We know that one of the factors of student achievement is making sure that class sizes are manageable.
We know that for a fact.
We do.
They deserve the attention, and they're not getting the attention because they're grouped with 25, 26 other kids.
And over time, over those last 15 years, where our funding really has not kept up locally for where we need, we've seen those class sizes each and every year slowly creep up to where we are today.
And that has an impact on the success of each student too.
It does.
There's mandates, and testing and scores, and there's things to keep up with. Right. Well, how are we supposed to keep up with that?
Yeah, that's been a major challenge for us here in Wicomico County.
So let's talk about the ask that the school district is making to the county.
Okay.
And explain that a little bit.
Sure. So each and every year we go through a budget process. So we start actually in the school system with our budget process as early as September for the next school year. Okay. So in September we start to get an idea of what our enrollment is for this school year, and that is what our funding will be based off of, both at the local level and the state level. So what we call the September 30th enrollment count. Okay. So there's an official count that is taken for September 30th of each school year, and then that count is what is used to go into the funding formula for the next school year beyond that. So we're always about a year behind in funding, even just with our normal funding formula that we go through each year. So that's something that maybe the community doesn't know. So the funds that we're operating on currently today were determined by September 30th enrollment count of 2023.
Oh.
Okay, so...
And if you don't mind me asking, so that enrollment can change because of transfer students, people moving to the area, people leaving. That number is not a...
When we're determining, what staffing we'll have for the following year, well, all of the enrollments that come after September 30th and that next summer and all of that into even the next school year will all be things that are very difficult as a challenge just because of the way the funding formula works.
Okay.
So knowing that, we start that budget process with our enrollment count and then determining what the needs are. So each one of our schools, we have 24 schools in Wicomico County. Okay. The principals and staff work together to determine what the needs are within their school. They then will create a budget for their school and lists for requests that then get moved on to central office, and we then collaborate and bring all of that together into what we think is the best budget for our school system the following year. Then the state funding starts to be able to be determined, the local funding, what our ask will be for the following year. And then the budget process is really where we're at now regarding those budgets are being created. Our budget is first approved by the Board of Education and then passed on to the county executive in Wicomico County. She then determines her budget for the whole county with all of her departments, and then that goes to the county council. And typically during the spring, March is when the budget's approved by the Board of Education, is passed on to the county executive. She then submits her budget to the county council, and the county council typically approves the budget for the county in early June.
Early June.
So during that time, the board has a budget hearing, the county executive has a budget hearing, and the county council has a budget hearing. And it's always this back and forth each year about what our needs are, what our requests are as a school system, determined by all of the requests and needs that through that collaborative process to determine the school system budget. And then that goes back and forth, with the county executive and the county council. And it's this back and forth each year. And I know the county executive has to make tough decisions, the county council has to make tough decisions, and we frankly have to make tough decisions even prior to that because of all the needs that are coming from each one of our schools. So what we've been doing with this Blue Ribbon Panel is what we're calling it, which is the initiative between Greater Salisbury Committee, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Education Foundation, is determining a way that, hey, how can we stop this back and forth each year and create a funding formula, like a formulaic approach as we move forward. So that's what we've been working on with this Blue Ribbon Panel over the course of the last few months, and really trying to put together something that we can come to the county executive and the county council each year with. And what that would be is what would be the minimum amount allowed by law in the state of Maryland, which is called maintenance of effort each year for the counties. On top of that, an inflation amount, which would be determined from the previous year, the amount of inflation, so maintenance of effort plus inflation, and then plus a factor of what we're calling an investment in education. So we recognize that over the last 15 years, the funding is actually less per pupil now than it was 15 years ago. So we're calling that extra factor an investment factor, which is an investment in our students, an investment in a reinvestment in our school system, which we've determined to be about 2%. So if we each year would put forward, here's our budget, here's what our request is going to be, a maintenance of effort plus inflation amount, whatever that inflation. Because we haven't even
kept up with inflation.
That's correct. Plus this 2% investment that will help continue to move us forward and progress each year to get back to the funding levels where really we should have been had we accounted for inflation and other factors over these last 15 years. So that's what we're working on. And
the 2%, so let's talk about what that 2% can do for you.
That 2% reinvestment, maintenance of effort, the minimum amount, and inflation is going to just basically keep us exactly where we are. We won't be losing ground each and every year. It will keep us where we are. The 2% investment moving forward, we're really looking to that to get us back, to get us where we want to be and really where we should be. Things that will help us, that funding will go towards reducing class sizes. That funding will go towards improving school climate and school safety. In addition, that 2% investment would also help us to be able to keep expanding not only our after-school programs and activities and extracurricular programs, but also would help us to expand our fine arts and our music programs, which I know have been very effective and are something that we're very proud of here in Wicomico County. So this is a way for us to continue to not have that back and forth each and every year, but something that we can clearly communicate to the community. We can clearly communicate it to our county executive and our county council that, hey, each year this is something that will be a sustained request year after year. We'll start with our floor, which is the maintenance of effort, the minimum amount under Maryland law, plus the inflation amount to help us continue to be able to keep doing the same things that we're doing each and every year, and this 2% investment so that we can get back to where we were in Wicomico County at the funding levels we were prior to 2010 and where we want to go, not only as a school system, but really as a whole community.
Because where we should have been, but we just haven't done that in the past. So now we need to, and it's not a one-time big ask, like, okay, we got the money, let's go. It's every year, it's sustainable.
It's sustainable, and that way it's also something that can be planned around because it takes the guesswork out of it, because each year we're guessing what portion of our budget will be funded and not funded. Each year I'm sure the county executive and the county council are wondering what we're going to bring forward as a requested budget, so this will take that guesswork out of it and something that we can all plan around.
Sure. So let's go back to the basics. We talk about budget. It's a big word, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff that falls under that word. So what is your budget? What does it account for?
Sure. So when you think about a school system budget, really what you're thinking about are people. Because that's what we do. We educate our students. We provide them with the best instruction that we can each and every day. We provide them with the best facilities and the safest learning environment that we can provide each and every day. So when you think really overall, what is a school system budget? About 80% of it are people. They are, out of 15,600 students that we have in 24 schools, that would comprise 1,400 teachers.
Wow.
That would comprise almost 2,500 overall employees for the school system. And of course, that would provide mainly for the education, all the instructional materials, all of the things that make up our entire budget, our entire needs as a school system goes into that budget. So 80% of it are the people and the salaries and benefits for those people.
Sure.
And then that leaves about 20% for everything else. So that would include our technology, that would include our transportation. We travel over 1 million miles.
Whoa!
Just in our buses each and every year here in Wicomico County. A lot of people will be surprised at that. Building space, we have 2.2 million square feet of building space here in our school system.
To maintain.
To maintain each and every day, that's correct. We have over 600 acres of property to maintain. So when you look at that budget overall, about 80% of that money goes towards the people that provide for that education, our teachers and all of the support staff and instructional staff that go into that. And then the about 20% is everything else that you can think of, from getting them to school on the bus to the books that they read to the instructional materials that they need, the laptops and all of those other things, as well as the utilities in that, the costs for electricity and heating and air conditioning. That's in the 20%? All of that goes into that 20%. That's correct.
I think people at home, and I kind of want to clear this too, is, oh, well, you're building a new school every year, and that's different.
Sure.
It
is different. And I think if you think about our schools, with 24 schools, we should be building a new school about every 3 or 4 years, or either building a new school or doing a major renovation to a school, because you just do the simple math. If you're doing one every 3 or 4 years, well, 24 times 3 is 72.
Yeah.
So that would mean that our newest school that we just finished was Beaver Run. We're getting ready to finish Mardella now.
Okay.
That puts us on track to come back. Obviously we'll do some minor renovations and remodeling and things like that, but it puts us on track for that building to last about 70 years with, the timeline that we're working under now. So we have to be building a new school or doing a major renovation to a school every 3 or 4 years.
And that's capital.
That's capital funding, and that's completely separate. And I will give our county credit that we are able to maintain that 3 or 4 year timeline between new schools or major renovations with the money that we're receiving from the county. And that's about average around the state for our capital funding. So there's always the need there for that, but the concern really that we have is the operating funding.
Sure. I saw a graph last in the state of Maryland.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that because, and you look to our neighbors in Somerset County, great county,
Right.
but it's a much poorer county than Wicomico. How did we, I don't understand then, what are the other counties doing that we're not? I mean,
Sure.
What is that?
So currently this school year, we are ranked 23rd out of 24 counties for local funding. If our funding projection stays the same, then we will actually move into 24th place next year. Right now, the school system that is ranked 24th for local funding is Caroline County.
Okay.
So that does put Somerset County, Dorchester County ahead of us as far as the amount that they're providing as a county per pupil for local funding. So I think we can do better than that. And I think we should, recognizing that, yes, we do have a lot of poverty in our county. There is no doubt about that. We have a lot of needs in our county. So I would not expect Wicomico County to rank first in local funding, but I do think that we can make some ground on where we are, and to just know the fact that, again, going back to 2010, that we are providing as a county less per pupil in 2025 than we were in 2010. So we can certainly do better than we're doing now.
And for people that don't know about, you take, let's say, a child from a disadvantaged home, they're probably receiving breakfast in school, free lunch in school.
Yes.
And what other, we have to provide those resources for them because they don't have them at home.
We do. And we're providing, in our school during the day, we have interventions where we're providing additional reading intervention or math intervention for students. We're also providing, obviously, for the special education needs for certain students. We have the largest, one of the largest increases percentage-wise in our English language learners or our multilingual learners over the course of these last couple of years. So we have 27 languages that are now represented in Wicomico County. So you can imagine in a classroom with 27, 28 or more students that presents a challenge. So we have to be able to provide staff that help our students not only learn the content, but also help them learn English. And to be able to understand that content. So that takes a tremendous amount of resources. We have after-school programs in many of our schools. We have summer programs throughout the county. So there are a lot of things that we're providing during the course of a school day, like you said, starting with breakfast and many times ending at 6 o'clock in that after-school program.
Absolutely. If I'm a teacher in a classroom, your Teacher of the Year talked about this a little bit, and I have 5 kids in my whole classroom that speak totally different language. How does one handle and manage that?
Right. Well, we do have a tremendous support staff.
Okay.
We don't have enough of them, and
Okay.
I will say that
Yes.
certainly. But we have that classroom teacher like Debbie Reynolds, our
Yes.
Teacher of the Year, phenomenal representative of all our wonderful teachers here in Wicomico County. So we have that classroom teacher. Many times we have an instructional assistant,
Okay.
a support teacher in that classroom. Many times we may have a teacher that's what we call an ESOL teacher, or a
Okay.
teacher that helps our students that are learning English, that will come in, maybe not during the entire class or in every class, but be able to come in and provide that student with additional services. We have sheltered classrooms where students will come together that are all learning English as a second language, and then we use technology. We use those laptops to be able to help that student to not only learn English, but many times learn content in an intervention type setting to provide them with additional practice outside of that core content class.
Yeah.
So all of those things are happening during the course of the school day. But you're right, that classroom that may have 28 students that are there to learn U.S. history in middle school, that may have some special education students that are in that classroom, where there may be a special education teacher or a special education instructional assistant that's provided to help those students and all students in that classroom. We may need to provide some additional support with our ESOL teachers to be able to come in, because there are several students in there that are learning English as a second language. So all of that's happening while the instruction on U.S. history
Yeah.
is happening at the same time.
That's where I look at the teacher. I know a lot of teachers, and I don't think I could do what they do.
They are tremendous.
every day. Every day.
We have so many hardworking teachers that are doing amazing things.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, during, back a few years with COVID, like, you have to be able to transition and pivot to meet the needs,
Yes.
whatever is going on out there.
That's right. In some of our schools, like Beaver Run, Wicomico High School, Wicomico Middle School, we have what we call a wellness center. And in that wellness center, we're providing mental health staff. We're providing, sometimes additional medical interventions where community doctors, physician assistants, or even sometimes with dental screenings and vision screenings, those kinds of things are going on in those wellness centers, certainly to provide for some of our communities that do not have those resources or enough of those resources in the community. We have social workers in every one of our schools now, and in some schools we have more than one social worker to provide for those needs. Of course, we have our school counselors, our administrators, our student advisors. Through Blueprint, we've added community school coordinators to be able to link our schools to those families out in the community.
Okay.
That to be able to enhance that link and bring parents into our schools, and to be able to bring the information from our schools to those parents. You can imagine as many challenges as there are in the classroom when you have students that are learning English as a second language.
Their parents might
or
not speak
special
English.
education
Yeah.
needs. We have those same needs in those households as well. So to be able to link to them, so that that family can be linked to the school.
I've definitely experienced before where a child is translating them for the parent
Yes.
who does not speak English.
That's right.
And that's a beautiful thing.
It is.
But the student needs to learn the language so he can tell mom and
That's
dad what's
right.
going on.
Those messages that are going home, used to be just, the newsletters that were going home a few decades ago.
Yeah.
Now, of course, all of that's electronic, but we also can do it through phone calls, through text messaging, and all of that many times we can do in multiple languages as well.
Yeah.
So it just takes so many things to be able to push our school system forward on a daily basis, and that local funding is so key to making all of those things happen at the level that we need them to be.
Because you listed over a half a dozen people, types of people that
Right.
work in the system. We didn't even talk about the upkeep, janitors.
Sure.
It takes a village.
It does.
It really does.
Yeah.
So what's the ask?
Currently, we just want to first start by informing our community.
Educate.
We want to educate our parents, we want to educate our community members on the fact that our local funding has not kept up. And I think many times, I'm sure our community just sees us continue to, go about school each and every day and doing the best that we can, and the amount of achievement that we've been able to experience and the results that we've been able to experience goes back to our wonderful students, our wonderful families, but also key are all of our wonderful teachers and our staff to make this happen. So that's how it's been moving forward, over the course of these last number of years. But we want to educate our community on the fact that we could be doing so much more than just treading water and maintaining each and every day and still achieving wonderful results. Our graduation rates have continued to increase. Our attendance rates have been increasing tremendously over the course of the last couple of years. We're still making ground on our reading scores and our math scores and our student achievement scores in so many different ways. We have students that are excelling and going to top colleges across the nation, each and every year. So there's so many achievements that are occurring, but think of what we could do if our local funding would just have kept up over the years and been at the level where we really need it to be. So educating our community on the fact of, hey, this is where we are, and this is what we want to do, this is what we want to achieve, and this is the local funding levels that we really think where we need to be at and how we're going to get there through this formulaic approach. And so first educating, and then coming along beside us as a team and speaking with us about, hey, we want to make this change. We want our county executive and we want our county council to know that our local funding levels really need to improve, and we're with the school system in advocating for making that happen.
Because we can do better.
We can do better.
Do better, Wicomico.
That's right.
And what did Bill Chambers say again? Education.
Education is the #1 economic driver in any community.
That says it right there.
It does.
I mean, it's an investment in our community.
It's, I can't think of a better investment to make than the future of our community, our students.
Thank you, Micah.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. This is The Local Lens. I'm Jenny Pastasak, and I will see you next time.